A young black boy, his name was Charles Tindley, was born right at the beginning of the Civil War conflict. Now his father was free, but his mother was a slave. So by law, Charles was free. But a slaveholder bought him, a wicked man. And Charles said, wait, I'm not a slave, I'm a free man. Here he was, just a little boy of about 7. And the man that had bought him said, I'll show you if you're free. And he put him on a whipping rack. And he whipped him and tore the skin from his body till literally his bones were showing on his back. They tore the back of his head up so bad that hair would never grow there again. Miraculously, he survived it. And he worked as a slave. One day he made a mistake. He saw little children being taught how to read. And he said, do you think somebody could teach me how to read? Because I'd like to know how to read the Bible. The man that owned him said, you're getting uppity. Who do you think you are? Don't you for a moment forget how vile slavery was. Who do you think you are that you should know how to read? He said, you've forgotten the whip, and only this time I'm going to whip you again. But we're not going to tie you up and whip your back. We're going to whip your front. And they tied him up and held his head and beat him till his cheekbones showed through the skin. Beat him mercilessly. Miraculously, he survived again. At the end of the Civil War, he was set free. And he made his way to Philadelphia. Had no one. And he's living on the streets. And he went to a Methodist church there and he said, I'll do anything. Could I just please get out of this cold? I know I'm ugly. My bones show through. I know I've been terribly disfigured. But I'd do anything. They said, here's what we'll do. We'll set up a room for you in the basement. And if you'll keep the stove and the furnaces cold at night, keep feeding the coal in, you can stay here for free. He said, that'd be wonderful. And he said, I know when people look at me, they stare because I've been so disfigured. They said, you don't have to be afraid of the people here. They're Christians. They're going to love you. He said, well, is there anybody here who could teach me how to read? I'd like to know how to read the Bible for myself. A lady in the church said, I'll take care of that. And she taught Charles how to read. His hands so disfigured that he'd have to use both to hold a fork from the whippets. But God took over. And that lady who taught him how to read, she said, don't you let your trials govern you. God's got something for you to do, Charles. Well, Charles Tindley was a voracious reader, self-educated himself. And his church finally said, we'd like you to start a church. And Charles Tindley became a pastor. His church absolutely exploded. in the city of Philadelphia, he'd have 5,000 to 10,000 people every Sunday come to hear the man that disfigurement couldn't stop. The man who, by the power of God, the papers kept coming to him and they kept saying, how do you get over the trial you've been through? And Charles Tinley said, well, I've wrote a few songs and they're in your hymn book. He said, the first one I've written, and he said, I sing it every day, is Leave It There. Take your burden. How many of you know that song? Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Trust and never doubt. He will surely see you out. Then they came to him again and they said, how do you make sense of it? He said, I don't have to. But I wrote this song. We'll understand it better by and by. God never said we'd understand it all. At the end of his life, just before he passed away, he wrote one more song. We shall overcome. Now, the civil rights movement took that song and changed the words. But if you read the hymn was a wonderful Christian writing and saying, by the grace of God, this trial's not going to stop me. What would it take for you to say, well, I don't understand this. Thank you, God, for it.